My name is Jedi Richardson. I've been at WyoTech for about 7 months now. My major is automotive and I've got a minor in trim upholstery. I'm originally from Fort Bridger, Wyoming, and I went to school at Laramie High School. So this is our brand new automotive shop. If you guys want to follow me around, we'll get started. So chassis is kind of where we start learning a lot about brakes, tires, how to mount and balance tires, how to break down tires. We learn a lot about alignments, how to reset TPMS sensors. We have SRS lectures, which is our safety and restraints. We also kind of dip into AC. So the first thing we'll look at here is we've got our alignment racks. So currently I think we have either 6 or 8 alignment racks. This is our newest one. This is our newest Hunter. This is one that we can actually use as students. So as a student, once we get through our comps, which is our hands-on stuff, this allows us to, kind of get confident, get our abilities down. What we're allowed to do is we're allowed to bring our own vehicles on here, or, actually sometimes customer vehicles or sometimes instructor vehicles. So we actually get to work on, not only just the cars around here, but instructor vehicles and our own. So this truck behind us, actually, this is Jim Mathis, the owner's truck. This is one that we've got to do quite a bit of work on, kind of got to get a little bit of experience on. Right now, we have an AC machine set up. So what we're doing with these AC machines is we're going to be, number one, recovering the system. The biggest thing we want to try to focus on in automotive is number one, staying safe for us, and number two, staying safe for the environment. So these are brand new snap-on AC machines. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to recover down the system, go from there, and then we can recharge, fill them up, make sure we've got the proper levels. We can actually run a little bit of diagnostic on here by watching these levels. Now, all these cars through here are stuff that we get to work on. So we get to do things like brakes, tires, everything from getting these guys up in the air, actually getting to work on the suspension components, getting in here, tearing tires off. This class is especially good for actually getting to check some torque, get some hands-on with the tools. So we'll move down here a little bit further. This is where we get to move on to a lot more of the hands-on stuff. So this is where we do primarily wheel bearings. So what we get to do is we get to take this whole thing apart. We get to go through, we get to get our hands dirty. We get to, get some grease in our hands, pack these bearings. Packing bearings is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. It's really simple, but it's something that a lot of people just haven't learned. Here we have all of our tire machines for tear down and reassembly of tires. These are our tires that we actually get to work on. So honestly, everything at WyoTech is ground up. We get to learn everything from how this machine works to how we're actually going to be doing this. We've got instructors here all the time getting us, more confident in how to use these. This machine right here is one of our balancing machines. So after we go through, mount our tires are actually not naturally balanced. So we have to go through, put them on this machine, put the lid down, and we actually get to balance them. So what we get to do with this machine is we get to keep the car up in the air. We don't have to take all the rotors, everything off. This is especially nice for two-wheel drive vehicles where we don't have to take our wheel bearings and stuff apart. So what we get to do with this machine is we get to put it on there. We can kind of leave it, forget it, and go from there. So the really nice part about these machines is, number one, we can take the rotors off. We get to put them here. Yet again, we can kind of take them, leave them, let them run, and go from there. But we can also do drum brakes on these. So this attachment down in here allows us to do drums. It's something that our on-cars can't quite do. The on-cars are amazing for stuff, but we don't actually get to have that experience. A lot of shops only run the on-cars. It's really nice WyoTech lets us get to use some of the off-cars. This actually appears to be a student vehicle. So if we get in here, it looks like they might be doing a little bit of suspension work. Looks like they've probably removed at least this tire. It's probably part of one of their comps. They might be just putting new tires on this too. We can continue down this way a little bit. We can get into some more student vehicles. It's amazing that WyoTech actually lets us get in, lets us work on our own vehicles. So it looks like this student right here is doing a hub and knuckle assembly on this Dodge. Okay, let's see. Might be doing some brakes on this too, and actually might be working on the front axle too. So in drivetrains, what we get to do is we get to go through and we get to, number one, learn about automatic transmissions, learn about the power flow through these automatic transmissions. Then we get to kind of get a little bit more hands-on. We get to go up underneath these cars and take these transmissions out. On these cars, they're running the 4T65Es. So what we get to do is we get to unbolt this transmission, drop it completely out of the car. So the next part of that we get to do is we get to learn how to actually take one of these apart and rebuild them. So if we move this way a little bit further, here is all of our tables where our 4T65Es are living. So these are our teardown tables. So each one of these transmissions gets to be torn down by a student. We get to tear all the way down into them, all the way through the case, all the way through all of the components. We get to actually hold these components in our hand, get to feel them, get to learn how they work with each other and how everything kind of combines. After we go through, tear them apart, we get to go through, replace all the seals in them, rebuild them, and then we come over to our dyno machine. So with rebuilding a transmission, we want to make sure that it actually works. So what we get to do is we get to set it up on this dyno machine. Students get to run this and we get to work each one of these transmissions through every single gear. Now, it's okay to make mistakes, and that's something that WyoTech is absolutely okay with. We're all learning. So if we end up making mistakes somewhere in the rebuild process, what we get to do is we get to take it back off, set it back up, tear it back down, and we'll have an instructor come over and help us figure out what we did wrong. Then we get to throw it on here and we get to actually run it back through. Something that I didn't actually get to mention with the teardown and rebuilds, or the R&R on these cars over here, is we get to take them off the lifts and we get to put them on the dyno. So this isn't actually seeing how much horsepower or anything it is. This just lets us take one of these cars, drive it up on here, and make sure that when we took that transmission out and made it back up to the engine, everything's working properly. So us as students, we actually get to go up in here, we get to run the dyno, we get to watch what's happening, we get to actually see what the transmission's doing, how it's correlating with the dyno, and we get to kind of get a feel for actually what this feels like. So what we'll do is we'll move over to the EMS shops. EMS is probably my absolute favorite. EMS is where we get to go into our electrical, the electrical diag. We get to learn a little bit about engines and a little bit about emissions too. These are our EMS shops. We actually have 4 EMS shops. WyoTech focuses a lot on the electrical diag and how everything kind of correlates. On our newer vehicles, everything has gone electric. You don't have throttle bodies that are run by cable anymore. Everything is run off of electrical. So with EMS, we get to learn a little bit about number 1, electrical diag, how that all works, but we also get to go into engines. So one of the main things that we get to do in EMS is we get to do an engine teardown comp. So right here we've got, and it looks like, yep, this is a 6.7 power stroke. So what we get to do as students is we get to tear this all the way down to just the block, and then we get to reassemble it and go from there. It really helps us get some hands-on experience and actually get to feel some of this stuff. So if we'll move down this way, we have all of these comp cars that we get to do some of the electrical on. We start ground up here. So what we're going to start with in EMS is we're going to go from learning just how voltage and ohms and amps works. And then we're going to actually get to apply it to these cars. We're going to go through and we're going to test something simple like a headlight. How many ohms is in a headlight? Then we're going to start moving up to bigger things of, okay, why might this headlight not be working? Why might we be having issues with this? So one of the biggest things that we get to start with in EMS is breadboards. So before we actually get to hop in a car and start testing there, what we need to do is we need to figure out how these circuits work together. So what we get to do, let's see. What we get to do is we get to go through on these breadboards and kind of figure out how the power is flowing. So we get to build and assemble these as a circuit. Once we get comfortable building and assembling these as a circuit, what our instructors are going to do is they're going to go through and bug these. It gives us kind of a chance to let us use our minds. Let us figure out what's going on through these electrical circuits. Then we'll start kind of stepping up into the cars. This here's one of our comp cars. So it looks like right now what they're doing is they're just going through and testing some of the wires. We can see that we actually have our headlights unplugged right here. What they're doing is they're probably going through just testing to see, you know, number one, how does the power flow from the switch up into here? What's it actually doing? Number one, like where's the pins? Where's that kind of stuff? That's probably what they're doing with this car. Now, all these cars in here are being worked on by students. This car right here is actually a student car. What he's going through and doing here is he actually put a 5.0 in this car. He's going through doing all the wiring. He's going through, you know, kind of figuring out exactly how everything needs to correlate. So this is a student car. I know we've got a couple, 3 others in here too. Right here is one of our engine stands. Once we get more comfortable doing a lot of the stuff in car, what we do is we start going through the starting and charging systems. Sometimes it's a little bit easier for students to actually get to see something out of car a little bit. So what WyoTech's done is we've set up these engine stands. What we get to do is go through here and we get to, number one, kind of start checking and seeing where all our voltage and amps and that kind of stuff is coming from the starter, get to see kind of how everything's correlating. And then what we get to do, and our instructors absolutely love it, is that they get to bug this. They get to go through and kind of change one little thing and see if us students can figure it out. Like I said, a big part of the EMS classes here is the diagnostic part. Something that a lot of schools and a lot of other, you know, a lot of things that you just need to learn by hand is you need to go through and you need to figure out the diagnostics. What WyoTech does is they kind of accelerate students by letting us go through and figure out that kind of stuff. Right here, we have one of our AVR machines. This is how we check and, you know, kind of check through our starters. We've got our amp clamp. So this allows us to see the actual amperage going to and from our starter, going off our alternator, going from there. So like I said, once we've gone through and kind of figured out a lot of the electrical, what we start doing is we start going into our engine teardowns. This right here is a 6.7 Cummins. This is actually one that I got to work on. This was my first engine getting to work on in class. What we do is we go down, we tear down. This engine isn't completely apart. They still need to tear off the oil pan, pull out our pistons and a couple other small things like that. But they're kind of to the point where they've got the heads off, that kind of stuff. It is really nice for students to kind of come through and actually get to see a lot of this stuff. It also kind of lets students see some of the failures on these. This engine is actually really kind of unique because one of the injectors got stuck open. So when an injector sticks open on something like this, it actually ends up shooting a hole through the piston. This is one that we have kind of got to talk about in class, got to see a little bit, but the instructors didn't actually tell us what had happened to this engine. They let us figure it out. So that's a really cool thing that WyoTech does is, you know, the instructors will tell us so much and they'll help us through absolutely anything, but they also want to see what we can learn and what we can see and what we notice.
I'm Corbin Haber. I graduated from Aledo High School in Texas, and I am currently taking collision. I've also taken chassis fab, and once I graduate collision and refinishing, planning on taking street rod afterwards. So a few things we have in the shop. Right here is our car aligner. It's one of the more state-of-the-art pieces of equipment. You'll see a car aligner in a lot of your collision shops. Right now what they're doing, if we come to the back side of this Jeep, so right here, this Jeep is one of the instructors. It got hit at 50 miles an hour while it was sitting still. And what this machine is designed to do is we can take measurements from multiple different points across the entire frame. We can figure out where it's pulled out and how we need to pull the vehicle back into square. Being hit at 50 miles an hour, I think it tweaked the frame 2.5 inches into a diamond. So then you have to figure out how to pull that diamond out and back to original. As we keep going through the shop, you'll see most of the vehicles in here are comp vehicles. It's what we practice on, and instead of working on your own vehicle to make all your mistakes, you get to do it on free vehicles. So right here we have a GT Skyline. It is another student's, and actually had previous body work done to it. And once it got moved up here, all the paint started cracking, and you could actually see where it wasn't repaired properly. So hopefully by the end of today, it'll actually look and match all the same contour lines. As we move down the shop, you can tell some of these doors are not the same color. So one of our comps is actually to take the existing door skin off, and then we turn around and we put a brand new door skin back on. A few of the things you learn with that is, one, we're matching all the same body lines. So this aftermarket door skin is going to look the same as the original ones, all back to OEM standards, including all of your adhesives, your rivets, and even spot welds that you might have had to take out. Part of our comps are to remove panels. Like this is the back trunk on our PT Cruisers. And you can also see where we were given dents and we had to go through and pull the dents out, restore that, put body filler over it, no more than an 1/8 inch. And then now when you run your hand across, it feels just like the original. Right here, someone's working on a rocker panel sectioning. Now, for me personally, this was one of the coolest projects to do. Definitely took the most time. So what you do is you go through and you'll section out both sides of your rocker, and it's kind of doing like a collision replacement. So if you get hit on the side, instead of replacing the entire body, you'll go through and you'll section out what parts are damaged. You'll fix that piece, add your inserts, as she's doing right now. She's welding it all back into place. You'll grind it, you'll put your body filler back on so it all feels as the original. And then where the best part is your instructors get a really big smile. They grab the biggest sledgehammer in the shop and they take about 7 hits onto your rocker panel. We'll find a good one down here. And then right there, like he's working on a dent right now that we have gotten from one of our instructors with a good hammer. And hopefully within the next little bit, that'll be restored, feel just like brand new. Now, as we keep working our way through, you'll see a bunch of hoods throughout the place. We do a lot of bolt-on. For your comp vehicles, we end up taking off the hoods, the trunks, all the doors, including the whole insides, and even down to window replacement. So this will be our chemical table. It's got all of our body fillers and all of our sandpaper, grease remover, and then at the end of applying all of our body filler, we come back, we have a jar of acetone, and we start cleaning off our board so we're ready for our next step. One of the reasons I chose collision is because welding and fabrication's been my background since before I got here, and collision's one of the only cores that you actually get a weld in. And a lot of the welding we do in here is super complex. You're on super thin material in all positions, and you're certifying with ICAR, so we're running 4-inch beads. Now you can see there's a couple people working on their comps right now and getting through a lot of their welds. So you do collision for 12 weeks, and then we move into refinishing, which is basically a lot of paint work for another 12 weeks. This is also one of the reasons I signed up for this class. I built a lot of trailers in high school, and I always had to paint them myself, but I never actually knew how to professionally do it. I think it turned out okay, but in here you'll really learn how to bring things back to specs. So right now in here, we're redoing all the walls. So as you spray, you're not going to get paint on the walls, but it's just gonna stick to some plastic. Here we have some really fancy equipment. Instead of stirring anything by hand, we actually have a whole rack that's connected that stirs all your primers, all your solvents, and everything together. Definitely one of the coolest pieces of equipment that I've seen. And what's super great is this is all for us. So a lot of those comp cars you saw back there, after we do the body work, we actually will pull these into the paint booth and we'll actually get to paint them. So not only are you restoring all your body work and that's gonna be perfect, but then you get to restore your OEM paints and it should look the same as the original. So it almost looked like we never touched the cars. And the school provides 100% of all the equipment we need. And the only thing I have to do when I go to paint my bumpers is just pay for the paint that I used. So that's going to be one of the coolest parts when I get in here in the next phase that I'm really looking forward to.
Hi, my name is Zachary Sayer. I go to WyoTech here doing the diesel program. I'm from Northern Colorado, went to a little school in Loveland. Come on out, we'll give you a tour of the shop. So we're going to start here in engine management systems and refrigeration. We go over everything from the sensors on the engine to the sensors on the truck, multiplexing, how CAN bus systems talk with each other, as well as refrigeration. We go over Thermo King, Carrier. We do a lot of component ID. You figure out where things are. So we've got these are reefer units for a trailer. You get to work on all those. And so you have the opportunity to get 608 and 609 certified in this class. And then if we go over here to these engines, we have We get to look at all the sensor wiring harnesses on these. This is diagramming multiplexing so that we can understand that. So that's EMS&R, engine management systems and refrigeration. So then we have the engines class. You go over everything from a teardown, a rebuild. You do a lot of overheads, you get to adjust gear trains, everything like that. You get real hands-on in this class, which is really nice. So these guys are doing an overhead on a Cummins engine at the moment. We've got Cummins, Cat, Detroit, and they're introducing PACC-R. We've got nice cutaway diagrams like this that help us really understand how things are working inside the engine. So again, we have a lot of Cummins, we've got Cat, and then down here we've got some Detroit diesel engines. So here in FP&E we do everything from flow tests. We learn about hydraulics, electrical circuits, electric motors. So we dive deep into these skid steers to figure out all of the auxiliary drives, the hydrostatic systems. You get to understand really how things work well in this class. So yeah, we do flow tests on these skid steers over here. We do a lot of teardowns of pumps, cylinders for hydraulic systems, a lot of hydraulic rams and whatnot. You get to tear them down, inspect them. So this is a good example of the electrical systems we do. It's the truck board, so it lays out truck electrical system so you can troubleshoot, figure out what's going on, and then you'll be tested on it, on its functionality. And powertrains over here, we go over drive lines, transmissions, PTOs, axles. So we go over the whole drivetrain in a truck, and you get to tear it apart. You can see we've got Eaton 10-speed transmissions that you tear apart as a rebuild. You got fifth wheel plates that you're rebuilding. And then if you look over here, we also go over air brake system. So this is the whole air brake system on a tractor and trailer, just broken up and laid out on a board. So that's really easy for us to understand, and you get to troubleshoot, you get to see it all work. So yeah, we do differential rebuilds. We pull transmissions and differentials out of these trucks. That'll finish the whole diesel shop.
Hi, my name is Tyson Davis. I went to Bret Harte High School in Angels Camp, California, and I'm taking advanced diesel and core diesel here at WyoTech. And I'm gonna give you guys a tour of the shop today. So every truck we run through and we do wheel-ins, so we do everything in a wheel-in, brakes, bearings, wheel seals, everything you could imagine there. And then working our way up the truck, we do drive lines and transmissions, pull the transmission out, do all the clutches and everything like that. And depending on the truck and what's wrong with it, we may be rebuilding a motor or whatever that may be. And we'll kind of walk through the shop here. This truck didn't really have anything too bad with it. We just did brakes and some air springs and stuff like that. So every single one of these trucks gets brakes and wheel seals done to it on all of the wheel ends, and then any other broken parts or anything like that. We do a whole PDI about it, pre-delivery inspection form. So we run through everything on the truck. Anything that DOT would go over, we would go over. So as we go through, on this truck here, we pulled the motor out, completely rebuilt the motor all the way from a bare block back into a running condition. And I can show you guys that. So this was one of 3 rebuilt motors we did this phase. Pulled the whole motor out, pulled the transmission out, rebuilt it, everything, and put it back together into running condition, along with a white truck on the other side of the shop. And I can show you guys that one really quick. So here on this truck, the motor was pulled out with the old motor that is right over here on that pallet. With a new motor that was put in it by a couple of the students here. That was the second motor swap this phase. And then on the other side of the shop, we did one more motor swap. So here on this truck, we did a complete motor swap out of the frame, pulled the motor out, pulled the transmission out, everything like that. It spun the rod bearing in bearing number 3. And then now we're buttoning everything back up, doing our AC, all that kind of stuff, adjusting the brakes. And over here, they're doing power steering tests. Should be. So these gentlemen are doing a PDI form before we deliver it to the customer, which is just an extensive form that you would just fill out before we give the truck back after we've worked on it. This truck right here just got back in from a regen, the exhaust regen. And if you work your way this way, this truck is ready to be delivered back to the customer. We just did the PDI on this one as well, and just finished all of our comps on this truck. Over here on this white Freightliner, we did brakes, wheel seals, all the wheel ends, and it is being picked up on Wednesday. And then in the back here, on this white Freightliner in the back. So on this white Freightliner here, we did a full cab swap. It was involved in a crash or rollover. So we pulled the cab off and we bought a new cab and replaced the cab with a used one, but one that wasn't rolled, obviously. And so all the electrical, everything is all redone, and new harnesses, new airlines, everything like that.
My name is Robert Blankenship. I'm from Tenino, Washington. I went to Tenino High School. I'm here taking the diesel program and ASM. And what really brought me into ASM is it's a 3-month course that gets you an associate's in business. And at the end of the day, everybody knows that not everyone wants to be turning wrenches their whole life. So being able to move more efficiently and easily into a management position as your body slowly starts to disagree with turning wrenches, it's going to make life a lot easier in the long run. So that's why I chose what I did.
And my name is Jonathan Reed. I'm from Independence, Oregon, where I went to Central High School, and I also took the diesel program and ASM as my specialty. But my reasoning was more to take it for the financial reasons, because I knew really little about how to manage money in general, and manage a business. So I want to take it to learn that aspect of things.
Yeah, so a lot of it is learning how you're going to set up your own business, how you run a shop, how you manage the people that you look over, how you actually manage them, such as how your team is set up. Are they individually organized? Are they team group? Are they support group? It all changes how they're paid and how that changement of pay actually affects how they want to work and how efficiency and productivity changes. Along with that, you got to find out how to actually measure your efficiency and productivity inside of a shop. Along with that, you also have to learn how to write company policies and how people are going to find the different gray areas and how you got to find it in a way that it's not putting you in any sort of line for liability.
So ASM is divided up into 6 classes. During the first phase, you go through communications, shop management, and human resource management. During the second phase, you go through computers and business applications, accounting and financial management concepts. So throughout these 6 classes, you learn different principles on how to go through these things. Communications was based really upon how to talk to people, how to get the most out of your employees. Human resources was all the legal aspects of things, so you're not making any legal fumbles. And then shop management was how to make sure your shop's going to have the most productivity. And then accounting and financial management was all about good financial decisions. We learned not just about how to financially manage a shop, but for the personal side of things, so we can be better in our own lives. Management concepts was about the history of management and what works well. We learned about different styles of management. And then the computers class was just how to use Word, PowerPoint, all that kind of stuff.
I really like the amount of work that you actually get to do and how vast and the large variety that there is. So it's not like, oh, you're going to learn how to just do automotive, how you're just going to run a diesel shop or a collision shop. All the management concepts and ideas are a universal idea. You can apply them to no matter where you're going. If you're going to go run a software company, you can do that. If you're going to go work in a textile industry, you can do that as well. It doesn't matter what you're doing. All of the concepts and ideas are applicable to anything that you want to do.
Yeah, I really agree with Robert on that one. Overall, the variance of things was really nice. There was so much variety, and the way that we learned it was just, to me, it worked really well. It was a lot of class time, but lots of personal stories from the instructors. just how it was taught, in my opinion, was really made this class special.
My name is Boston Lynch from Yakima, Washington. I went to Eisenhower High School in Yakima. I took diesel technology, and then my last class was high performance powertrain, and now I'm in chassis fabrication. Let's go take a look around. All right, so here in chassis fab, we have a bunch of different projects. It's super diverse around here, but mainly we're focusing on the chassis. But in this instance, this is our Chevelle. If you look at these welds in here, all throughout this, super nice welds. When I first got here, I had no idea how to weld. I knew that was a super useful tool to be able to get myself into the industry, and everyone's gonna be able to learn how to weld like that. Next over here, we got the Bronco. Me and my buddy Zach are working on this right now. We're just building a main tube right now. We just got everything mocked up right now, and then on the very bottom, you can see there's two pipes that are holding down right there. Right now we're gonna make a metal bar that goes around and ties back into the frame. There's a lot of design that goes through here. And over there, that's the tubing bender. We're gonna learn how to use that. So this is my buddy Isaiah's Ford Courier. He's building it into a drift truck. So if you guys are all into drifting or anything like that, drifting, drag racing, you know, rock bouncing, I mean, anything you want, really. If you have an imagination, you can build it here. So right now he's building the frame. He completely took the frame off. He's building the frame, building the suspension. He actually designed most of the suspension parts in CAD, and that's what they're doing right now. This is a 300ZX. She's building the main hoop, a crossbar, and then basically linking it to the unibody. There's all kinds of tools that you'll be able to use here. That's the best part about WyoTech, and the best part about chassis fabrication is being able to know what you're doing, learn how to weld, and eventually you'll be able to build drag car, rock buggy. I mean, anything that you can imagine, you can build it.
Hi, my name's Caleb Hayes. I'm from Kingman, Arizona. Went to Kingman High School. My core class was auto, and my specialty is high performance powertrains. If you walk with me this way, we've got a good buddy finishing up the R&R and rebuild of another good buddy's truck. And then over here, we've got the owner of the truck doing one of his last comps, a carburetor. How's this doing?
Oh, it's going pretty good.
Awesome.
Tearing it down right now.
Yep. Cool. Back farther this way, we have some more students working on a Ford Lightning, which is a lot of fun. It's a customer project right now. So this is where we rebuild the engines. You have to do two a phase, well, one a phase, two for both phases. So if you come with me this way, this is called the dyno. We can put engines on it to see how much horsepower they make. One main reason that I joined high performance powertrains is because I've been a gearhead for as long as I can remember. My grandparents, they always pushed me into it, and I came here to learn as much as possible how to make the best and most amount of power safely and not blowing stuff apart. And with that, we have a Ford motor right here. I'm not sure what it is, but we're going to fire it up. It is a 347 stroker. We're going to fire it up. I'm going to adjust the idle just a little bit, and we're going to make a pool. I'm going to be standing in here. I'm going to try to talk to you guys, but I'm not sure if it's going to work very well. So, got the headset?
Put that RPM up. All the way up. Just set the idle. Set the idle. You know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then do your airfield Mr. Screws and just put on a show.
Got it.
And then I'll wave him out. We'll do a pull. Just stand right there.
Okay, sounds good. Remember, guys, safety first.
I'm adjusting the idle in the air to see if we can get a little more power coming out of this carburetor to the engine.
Hey, I'm Maria. I went to Yakima, Washington High School. It was East Valley, I think it was. And I'm one of the street rod shop leaders, and I'll be here to take you around and look at some of the projects we're doing right now. So we'll start with the Oldsmobile right here. Right now I'm working on the metal work, metal finishing, all the body work on this car. And a lot of dents, getting the dents out. And we're building a patch panel on that door right there, doing some TIG welding, just basic stuff we do in street rod, metal fabrication, all that. I can take you down here as well. Right here. They're working on some rust damage in the wheel well right here. They were repairing that, building some more patch panels for that. This is a International Harvester. They're right back here. It's got the truck bed off of a square body, as you can see. Right now, if you can see, you look in here. He's been building a truck box for underneath the beds right there. Some metal work. And here, this is a hull they're building. It was originally off of an airplane, and they're building that out of aluminum and TIG welding it together. Pretty cool. Here we got Garrett's car right here. He's been doing a lot of metal work, body filler, as you can see, smoothing out all the metal on there. He'll also be priming it before he takes it home. So, yeah, pretty cool. And on this old Ford, they've been doing a lot of body filler on this one. Just smoothing things out, getting it ready for paint eventually.
What's going on, you guys? Dakota Leachman from Houston, Texas. I went to high school at Tomball, Texas. Tomball High School, you know, go Cougs. This is Trim and Upholstery. This is the best class at WyoTech, hands down. So these are our sewing machines. You know, this is the only place that we can take off our safety glasses because you really can't sew with these on. Yeah, brand new machines, state of the art. A lot of people really don't have the privilege to work on these machines. I mean, it's something really special, and especially having music, it's really a relaxed environment. It's not as noisy as diesel. This is where the majority of the work's spent, especially in first phase. You're learning how to sew a straight line with 3/8 seam allowance. It sounds a lot easier than it is. Yeah, you can see Lucas, he's working on his headrest right now. And then over here we have our cutting tables. We actually have a finished project, some diamond stitch back seats, diamond stitch inserts. It's very nice. Yeah, you might want to get a close-up on this. This is actually some really good work by Eric Coons. Yeah, this is our tear down tables. You know, this is where we get most of the work done. You can see people over here, they're working on their furniture, you know, because it's not just, you know, auto upholstery, you know, it's marine, it's aircraft, it's furniture, you know, you can even do clothes if you want. You know, and the startup cost for Trim and Upholstery, I mean, you can really make something out of yourself just by taking this 1 3-month class. There's Max Mercedes over here. We did the convertible top on. Completely replaced it. We also had a student, Logan. Man, if only y'all could have seen it, what it looked like before. This seat was kind of torn up, and I think he did a backrest bolster repair. And then if you, not really sure if you can really get in here, but maybe if you pan up, you can kind of see all the work that went into this. You know, this was a 3-day project with Mac's help. I don't remember what this came out of, but he's got the white welt cord, diamond stitch inserts, and no foam shaping on this one. There's another seat, but I guess oh yeah, it's right in the bed. So then we got the leather seat, same deal, only it's got double stitch diamonds. You know, it's a little bit different. We got to use the embroidery machine right here for this Ford logo. Just really quality piece right here. 2 instructors' vehicles, all student work. You can see the work he put in right here. Yeah, trim panels are not installed yet, but he got down some Dynomat. Yeah, this is Randy's project. He's over in chassis fab. It's fresh leather, you know what I'm saying? I mean, nothing beats that. And so I'll take you over here. It's our woodworking area. Again, I mean, this table is, I mean, this is like $15,000 stop saw. I mean, if this was running and I put my finger in here, blade would cut. I mean, the safety, you know, is a top priority here at WyoTech. And yeah, so whenever you start running, if you're cutting anything, this turns on first, you know. Keeps the mess away, keeps the debris away. So we got our glue table, you know, probably the only chemical you're really gonna deal with. And, you know, a lot of people come in here, myself included, when you go to spray paint, you're spraying, you know, you're right there. When you go to spray glue, you need to be back here. And that's something, I mean, it was kind of a learning curve. You know, it's something you had to get adjusted to. We got our supply table right here. So we have all of our scrim foams, all of our cardboard, and then here's our templates we use. So, you know, you're gonna come in here and your second phase, you're gonna make a set of visors. Again, like everything, has to be next to perfect to pass. I mean, they're making sure you are extremely dialed in. Well done in trim and upholstery. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. And you come over here, I mean, this is what you'd see in your typical trim shop. You know, you're gonna have a customer come in here and they tell you all about the estimating. They tell you about actually, you know, getting down to the nitty gritty. What are you doing in your shop? So you come over here and you get all your fabrics or your carpets, your vinyls, your leathers. Customer finds something they like, you make an order, say, yeah, bring your car in whenever it's there, and you're good to go. Going back to the trim panel, this is one of our second phase comps. So you custom fabricate a trim panel. All this you make yourself. You do the hand rolled binding, you do the single fold binding, you do a pleated insert. This is leather actually, this armrest with a single reinforced right along the seam. Everything. I mean, it's just cardboard, staples, but you know, it's like things like that you'd never know unless you take this class. I mean, this class is so valuable. It's ridiculous. I can't praise this class enough. I mean, this is going to take me places I never thought I could go. I mean, I went through high school and all, you know, all my friends, they're going to college, you know, they're spending 4 years, a lot of money, you know, money they most likely won't make back. It costs like startup costs for a sewing machine, you know, trim table. It's all in, you're about $10,000 to $15,000 and you can start your own business. I mean, that's a business loan that you can take out while you're young. You know, I really don't have anything else to say about this class. This class has just been phenomenal. And H and Mac, I mean, Mac won't be here too much longer, so this is really the time to hop on. But I mean, this is the show. You know, this is the best trim school in the nation.